on 105.9 FM and streaming worldwide on the WMAL app.
O'Connor and Company.
8:36, it's O'Connor and Company on this Friday before Memorial Day. Coming up, Chris Plant joins us in 30 minutes. It's Larry O'Connor with Patrice Onwuka. Good morning, Patrice.
Hey, good morning. Happy Friday.
Amen. And by the way, real fast, again, the 20th anniversary of the World War II Memorial, that really is something, and I had sort of figured we're going to talk about that a lot on Monday. And, of course, we're going to spend a lot of time, of course, observing the fact that President Biden's uncle was eaten by cannibals during that conflict. I feel like we've just glossed over that fact.
Another fable, right?
Not focused on it nearly enough. That's just unbelievable. The cannibals still in action. Joining us right now is a very busy man, and he's got his hands full. He is the Attorney General of the Commonwealth of Virginia, Jason Miyares. Happy Memorial Day, Mr. Attorney General. Thanks for joining us.
It is great to be with you all. Thanks so much for having me.
I look at the stories that you're dealing with right now, and they all seem to have a theme. There's this intersection of people of faith in this country being persecuted, frankly, by government institutions. And I want to get to the good news in a minute, actually, as usual. Yeah, eventually we'll get to the good news, which is your victory over the Biden administration on behalf of the Knights of Columbus. But what's developing right now on the campus of University of Virginia, where we have a Jewish student who is now suing the university. He says that the university has acted with virulent anti-Semitism, fostered that anti-Semitism on campus. The charges that he is making in this civil suit to the president of the University of Virginia and the rector, do they rise to the level in your mind of perhaps a criminal investigation from your office, sir?
Well, I'm in a unique position here, Larry, because as the Attorney General of Virginia, I am also the lawyer for the Commonwealth, which means I'm the lawyer for every state institution. And so I can't really comment on this because of the fact of the nature that all the university councils at every state university technically is an employee of the Office of the Attorney General. So obviously I have opinions about this, but on this issue, I am not allowed to, because as much as I love to share my thoughts, I really don't want to get in trouble with the Virginia State Bar. So I'm not going to be able to comment
I appreciate that. I do, but I just know that you were investigating some of these same groups that are cited in the civil lawsuit. So there is a track record there for all of that's what brought the question to the table for me, because I do know that you have some feelings, but that is an interesting dilemma that you're faced with. So fine, we'll set that aside. Tell me about the Biden administration. Joe Biden is a very devout Catholic. So what's he got against the Knights of Columbus? This seems that for 60 years they've been celebrating Mass on this war cemetery.
Right. Well, the Knights of Columbus, which is a Catholic charitable organization, has for decades upon decades celebrated a Mass on Memorial Day, which I do like to remind folks. Memorial Day is not just a day to go to the beach. Obviously, it is a day we remember the fallen, remember those that have given the last full measure of devotion to this remarkable country. And the Knights of Columbus were looking at a national cemetery in Petersburg to both honor the fallen and also hold a Mass as you pray and remember not just the fallen, but the families that lost loved ones. Well, the Department of Interior, the Biden administration, determined that albeit that you have any type of religious service at a cemetery. Now, think about this. If you've ever actually seen a burial, there are oftentimes religious services at a cemetery. It is quite often.
Yeah.
And so we've got wind of this. Obviously, this is something. Religious liberty is not just important to all Americans, but it's very important to Virginians because in many ways it's the birthplace of religious liberty. This is where Thomas Jefferson pushed forth the Virginia Statute of Religious Freedom, which is one of the bedrock principles of recognizing that government is not going to be able to take away your freedom, the ability of freedom of worship. So we sided with the Knights of Columbus, who put the Biden administration on notice. There was going to be an emergency hearing actually today at 1:30, and we're grateful that just a couple hours after we got involved, they backed down. So listen, we're grateful that the Biden administration saw the right thing. I think it was C.S. Lewis said, the progressive man is the man who realizes he's going down the wrong road and turns around and doesn't keep forward. And I'm glad they decided to turn around on this. But it does go to show you just how outrageous it was that the Knights of Columbus suddenly were being denied their religious liberty. And I often say, as the Attorney General of Virginia, we view ourselves as the people's protector, protecting you from violent crime and corporate misconduct, also means sometimes protecting your constitutional liberties, and I'm glad we're able to get the win.
Well, and so am I. I think we all are, Attorney General. And what's interesting, this reminds me of during the COVID pandemic when so many houses of worship were forcefully locked down, and people were denied their constitutional right to worship their God in a church, in a synagogue, in a mosque. And sadly, here we are again. This is one instance, but I worry. Do you worry too that in the future these heavy-handed government bureaucrats will use whatever power and whatever excuse they can to deny people the right to worship as they choose?
You know, when you look back at COVID, decades from now, you're going to have such damning indictments on how the government and those in positions of power reacted. Somebody sent me a meme recently that it was a portrait of Patrick Henry, and it said, "Give me liberty or give me death," unless there is a virus with a 99.98% survival rate. And I thought it was a pretty stark contrast that so many individuals in the government just freely denied people some of their most basic liberties. And you look back now and you think, how in the world? And it's astonishing the fact that so many of our churches and our synagogues and our mosques, places of worship were closed. I mean, you look at the fact that even Gavin Newsom bulldozed a skate park and banned your ability to go to the beach. Yeah. And, you know, when the quote unquote science now shows that was the best place you could be, was to be outside and not stuck indoors. So not just on the fact of the affront of religious liberty, but on so many areas, you look back on what happened in COVID, people got it wrong. And the left and so many of those are in the positions of power are trying to run away from that. And they're desperate to try to not to talk about the fact that so many of the facts and things that they scolded us on and they told us on was absolutely wrong. And you can look also at the closure of our schools, what happened to our kids, the learning losses, the levels of depression and addiction, you know, socially isolating our kids for close to 2 years. Virginia was the 44th state in the country to reopen after COVID. It really wasn't until Governor Youngkin came in that he said, we're getting back open. And we're going to make sure that we're not going to have these school closures again. But it's just, you look back and you think with horror, and my hope is the next time around will be much more, those in positions of power will be much more virulent and protecting our liberties and common sense as well.
Attorney General Jason Miyares, we're up against it, but I do want to get you on record real fast about what happened in Quantico this week with 2 Jordanian nationals in the country illegally. We know for sure one of them crossed the southern border illegally. Is your office involved in any way in this investigation or the criminal investigation? And are there other concerns that you might have with regard to illegal aliens that may actually be affiliated with terrorist groups?
Absolutely. But the Biden administration is not sharing anything with Governor Youngkin. Governor Youngkin and I have talked several times about this. This is just another abject, complete failure of the Biden administration. 241 individuals on the terrorist watch list have entered into the United States since in the last 18 months. That's who's been apprehended. We don't know how many have gotten through. Probably double that have gotten through. And the fact that this individual came through in April, was released. 83% of those that are stopped at the border are given simply what's called a notice to appear. And they say, we'll see you in court 5 years from now. And it's the definition of a catch and release program. We are suffering the largest human migration into the United States in our 240 plus year history. By far, there's nothing that even comes close to it. It is the population that is larger than 32 different states.
That's insane.
And there are so many people coming in that are not friendly to us or our interests, that possibly want to even kill and harm innocent Americans. The next 9/11, the next 9/11, folks, is not going to be a hijacking a plane. I just have a bad feeling it's going to be individuals that have crossed over the border that attack and hit soft targets. And it's terrifying to think about. It's something I worry about every day.
Well, if you're worried about it, we should be worried about it. He's the Attorney General of Virginia. He's a good man, Jason Miyares. Thank you for joining us, sir.
Thank you, sir.
God bless you guys. Thanks.
It is 8:45 WMAL.